This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Unvaunted once again. Quinn Priester tossing a fantastic game today for the Brewers. The offense taking advantage of those Chicago Cub mistakes, and Andrew Vaughn, the legend of Andrew Vaughn, continues to grow and he continues to be impressive. More importantly, the Brewers get the 9-3 win over the Cubs in Game 2 of their 3-game series over there at American Family Field. And as of right now, at the very, very least, secure a series win. They'll look for a series sweep tomorrow. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Brandon_Snide. Follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com, covering all of our Wisconsin sports teams. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Brewers part of your day each and every day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, many, many more terrific apps. Check us out wherever you get podcasts, as well as over on YouTube. Just go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, get notified when we go live. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, drop a comment, drop a thought. We will celebrate a 9-3 Milwaukee Brewers win over the Chicago Cubs, and what a game it was. We mentioned the solid start from Quinn Priester. The offense, 10 hits today for the Brew Crew. We'll dive into that, the turning point. I don't think it's going to be any secret or any debate on who is tonight's player of the game, but we'll get into all of that, including your celebrations on the program, welcomed as well. Let's begin quickly with your scoring summary because I want to get to all of your reactions today. So I'm going to front load a lot of this so we can work in a lot of your thoughts and your reactions, because it has been a terrific start in this series in Game 1 and Game 2 for this team, and in a series of the season. I called it after last night's victory. I actually think I talked about it on Sunday going into the series, and the Brewers have sent a statement throughout Major League Baseball and certainly in the National League Central. 64-43 on the year, now 21 games above 500, and a now 2-game lead on those Cubs. Let's begin with the scoring summary there in the second inning. Dansby Swanson for Chicago would kick things off with a fielder's choice. That would score Pete Crow Armstrong from third base. But how many times have we talked about this Brewers team responding? I feel like I know we talked about it last night. I'm sure we talked about it on Sunday. We talked about it at length over the 11-game win streak. In the second inning, once again, this Brewers team bouncing right back to tie things up. A sac fly from Anthony Siegler that would score Andrew Vaughn. I know we're going to mention his name in a few minutes here. And actually, without further ado, the next inning, the third inning, Andrew Vaughn would hit a sacrifice fly. That would give the Brewers a 2-1 advantage. And that takes us to the fifth inning. And without further ado, the turning point in a Brewers 9-3 win over the Cubs.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Big moment in this game for this Brewers team for this 9-3 win, and it was a quirky inning in that fifth inning. If you're rooting for the Brewers, you don't care how it happened, but it happened. Jackson Chourio would lead off with a triple. Now there was a little bit of concern. He did round second base, and it looked like he had some kind of injury. He certainly did. He came out of the game. The early report, and I know Pat Murphy will likely address this while we're in the show. The early report is a right hamstring spasm. So if that is the case, that is probably the best news possible for Jackson Chourio and certainly Brewers fans alike. Right after Jackson Chourio, William Contreras would hit a double. That would score Blake Perkins, who was at third base in sub for Jackson Chourio, who we mentioned had left the game. Then this is where the game, in my opinion, really started to turn for this team, and that's the Brewers, obviously. Pete Crow Armstrong, Christian Yelich hits a frozen rope out to center field, dead center field. Very, very, very playable, very, very catchable ball. And PCA just dropped it. Simply just dropped it. That would score one run. Then Andrew Vaughn would come up. He would single up the middle. That would score William Contreras. Caleb Durbin would end the inning in that fifth with a sacrifice fly. That's when the Brewers had a 5-1 advantage. And that's when the control of this game and certainly the momentum took over for Milwaukee. Nico Horner in the 6th would have a home run to left field, and that would make it 5-2. Things got a little hazy there in the 6th inning. The Cubs at one point had the tying run at the plate, but the Brewers would come up to bat in the bottom of the 6th inning, and who other than your player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Andrew Vaughn, the legend of Andrew Vaughn. It has been remarkable what he has done since he has come over from Chicago to Milwaukee in the Aaron Savale trade. Absolutely fantastic. Bases loaded, 1 out after Bryce Terrain had struck out in that earlier part of that inning. Christian Yelich had walked. That would load the bases. Andrew Vaughn, the first pitch he would see, he would send out, and that would give the Brewers a 9-2 lead. They would eventually win the game 9-3. Pete Crow Armstrong would hit a sac fly in the 7th. But let's get back to Andrew Vaughn, and he is your player of the game for a Locked On Brewers postcast 9-3 win over the Cubs. 3 for 4 this evening, a career high 6 runs batted in. And as you heard it in that 6th inning, you could really pin the turning point maybe in that 6th inning where the Brewers were able to escape that jam by only giving up that solo home run. But at the very least, for Andrew Vaughn, the legend of Andrew Vaughn just continues to grow day by day. And here's a cool fun stat for Andrew Vaughn. And I know a lot of people have been pounding their fists on the table and wanting a bat, wanting a power bat, wanting to go get Eugenio Suarez from Arizona. The most RBIs in the National League since July 7th. Second place, Andrew Vaughn with 21 of them. Only Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies has more runs batted in since July 7th, since Andrew Vaughn has come up as a Milwaukee Brewer prior to that All-Star break, those few games before. 21 RBIs now for Andrew Vaughn in 15 games. An absolutely fantastic performance from him at the plate, including that grand slam, including the sac fly, including the single up the middle as part of that 5th inning that really got this game going in the Brewers' direction. He is, without any question, without any debate, the player of the game. But if you had to give an honorable mention tonight, Quinn Priester, not necessarily his best outing as a Brewer, gave up 8 hits, 5 2/3, but man, did he control this game. 86 total pitches thrown, 57 of them landing for strikes. That's always been the thing with Quinn Priester, and that was the struggles earlier on in the year for Quinn, was the control, allowing guys to get on base early in games and drive that pitch count out. Today wasn't necessarily the case. He only issued 2 walks. He did strike out 3 batters. And now the 11th straight win for this Milwaukee Brewers team when Quinn Priester pitches. And he today secures his 10th win of the season. So another performance, a solid performance from Quinn Priester, and something that might fly under the radar because of the performance from Quinn Priester, because of the performance from Andrew Vaughn, because the Brewers have now won back-to-back games over the Cubs in a series where they entered it tied and now have a 2-game lead. Now you might talk about them being 21 games over 500, but a sneaky good thing about this game is Pat Murphy only had to use 2 pitchers in tonight's game. Quinn Priester, as we mentioned, 5 2/3. Aaron Ashby finishing out the last 3 1/3 innings of this ball game. That means tomorrow, if it's a tight one, if Freddie Peralta doesn't have a long start, you have everybody back in that bullpen who, if you remember game 1, everybody but Ashby made an appearance. So tonight, Ashby is the only one out of the bullpen making an appearance. So a huge spot in this game for the Brewers to only use Quinn Priester, who got the win, and Aaron Ashby, who wrapped things up for the Brewers in a 9-3 win. Your thoughts, your reactions, your celebrations coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Brewers postcast is brought to you by Game Day Hue. And if you're on the live stream, so is this hat I am wearing. For Brewers fans like me, this one hits the mark. Got it in Brewer Blue. Game Day Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and every college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos. It works on game day, works on the golf course, works at the grocery store, or anywhere in between. And it's not just hats. Once again, if you're on the live stream, if you're a golfer, check out their split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who simply always has everything. And right now you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue, HUE.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals. So right now is the time for you to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. Once again, that's GameDayHue, HUE.com, code MLB15. A 9-3 Brewers win over the Cubs at American Family Field gets them 21 games over 500, 64-43 now on the season. The win also gives them another game over the Cubs in the National League Central, 2 games up. Quinn Priester getting the win. The legend of Andrew Vaughn continues to grow. Jackson Chourio, as we had mentioned, exited the game. The earlier reports, it's a spasm, so we'll keep an eye on that as it goes on. I would anticipate the Brewers might play it safe tomorrow, but it has been a fantastic series so far. The Brewers, at the very, 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 very least, securing themselves a series win over the Cubs at American Family Field, and it looms huge because again, after last night, you have 7 games against these Cubs. You have 5 back at Wrigley. Remember, the doubleheader that the Brewers will have, and part of that 19 games in 18 days will include those games at Wrigley Field. So you look at this as like a 7-game type series. You win the first 2, you maintain pace with, as the even when the Cubs were winning, you were able to maintain pace with them. You caught up with them in the National League Central, and now you have overtaken them with back-to-back wins at American Family Field. Your thoughts, your reactions. Let's begin with our everydayer catch. The series hasn't really been close, just proves who truly deserves to be atop the NL Central. Let's get greedy and go for the sweep tomorrow. I know I had mentioned this a couple of times. I think it may have been prior to the Cubs series in May, where, they were on a really good stretch. They beat the Brewers 2 out of 3 games. But I always said, I'm like, I just don't trust their pitching. I don't trust their bullpen. It just hasn't been. Obviously, you lose Justin Steele. That takes a big part of part of your starting rotation away. Eventually, it was going to catch up for the Cubs, right? Eventually, they had been the best offense in all of baseball, at least runs per game, for a long, long time. But this is how this Brewers team wins, guys. And this is the strength. You're feeding you're seeing strength for strength, and you're seeing the Brewers' strength outlast the Cubs' strength, which was hitting. And the Brewers bullpen wasn't even their best defensive performance today. The Brewers, that is. The Cubs, it was atrocious. You loved it as if you're a Brewers fan. But there was a couple moments in that game where we saw Bryce Terrain, not be able to field the ball to turn a double play. Quinn Priester gets a ball that would have probably got out of the inning off his glove. So it wasn't even the best defensive performance from the Brewers, as we talked about it, that being one of their strengths. And now you're seeing their pitching come to light and control this series since, we haven't seen the Cubs in a month and a half or so, something like that. So it's been a bit since we had seen the Cubs. So this is a completely different Brewers team since the last time they had met. Greens Farm over on YouTube says, Vaughn is my man crush. Wonder how many of his jerseys or t-shirts are going to sell. This guy has just been a huge lift to the team. Change of scenery. And I know I've said it. I don't want to pat myself on the back. And I said, I know a lot of you want to bat at the trade deadline. I think Andrew Vaughn can be that bat. And I said that a couple of weeks ago when he started his hot streak, when he was called up from Nashville into Milwaukee. And I said, I don't know, like the talent, 3rd overall pick in the 2019 draft, the talent was always there with Andrew Vaughn. He just needed to get out of Chicago, needed to insert himself into a winning organization, into a change of scenery type situation, insert himself, and look what he has done with this Brewers offense. I mean, he has completely transformed their entire offense in the 3 weeks that he's been up here in Milwaukee. It's been fantastic to see. I'm happy as a Brewer fan. I'm happy that he's helping my team win games, but I'm also happy for the player who was just stuck in purgatory down there in Chicago. Lots more of your thoughts and your reactions on the program. If you're over there on YouTube, feel free to drop a thought, drop a celebration, drop a question. And if you're on the YouTube stream, please make sure you drop a thumbs up on our video. Landon If Andrew Vaughn does not win Player of the Month, I'm going to go Manfred's office and chew him out worse than when Harper did. Yeah, Bryce Harper chewing out Manfred, discussing in baseball eventually. Yeah, I don't think it's any question. First off, he gets the Locked On Brewers postcast player of the game this evening. But, when you talk about 21 runs batted in the 15 games that he has played since he's come up, from Nashville to Milwaukee, and what it has done for this team, it's not a coincidence, right? You get a couple starting pitchers back and Brandon Woodruff and Jacob Mizorowski comes up here. But what Andrew Vaughn has done, remember, you go back to that series prior to the All-Star break, that game 1 against the Dodgers, and he really got them going with that 3-run home run in game 1 against the Dodgers. That was the first game the Brewers played against LA, and he put them up 3-0 early. I believe it was the first inning of that game. And the Brewers haven't looked back since. And that's really when things started to get going for this team. Harley, part of our everydayer over on YouTube. Unreal. Glad Churio is going to most likely be okay. It looks like Hoskins won't have a spot on this team when he does come back. Go Brewers. Now, it looks like Hoskins, the update with him is late August. So, again, whether he's ready in late August, mid-August, early August, there's no reason, if you're Pat Murphy, if you're Matt Arnold, that you're pulling Andrew Vaughn out of this lineup. There's no reason whatsoever. Kep over on YouTube, part of our everydayers as well. Thank you, as always, you guys, for making Locked On Brewers part of your day. He says, this series seemed to have unlocked a new level of dominant. I knew we were going to be dominant, but wow, this is unreal. Good news, Churio's only dealing with spasms. How about a sweep? Go Crew. The last bullet point on the YouTube rundown there is finish them, because they certainly have sucked the life out of the Cubs since they have started this series at American Family Field. And the Brewers have really controlled this series. You go back to game 1, and the only little bit of momentum the Cubs had in this series, that was the first inning, and the Brewers gifted them 2 of those runs, right? Jacob Mizorowski overshot Andrew Vaughn, scores 2 runs. They have a 3-run advantage on Jacob Mizorowski early. It looks like the kid might be rattled a little bit, but he bounces right back, shuts him down. The 10 straight hitters. The Brewers offense finds their way, a couple of home runs, and then they take advantage. They take control of that game. And then game 2, Cubs get another, early advantage in the second inning and a 1-0 lead. And that was it. And the Brewers took over and they routed them 9-3 tonight at American Family Field. They have dominated the Cubs in this series. There's no doubt about it. Woodworking Outdoorsman, part of our everydayer, saying, let's go Crew. A fantastic win this evening. Jaden over on YouTube. Hope Churio is all good. Another great game. Let's go for the sweep tomorrow. I don't think there's any doubt about, obviously the concern is with Jackson Churio. You hope that's just what it is. Now I'm assuming, I don't have anything in front of me. I don't have Pat Murphy's transcript. I don't even know if he's addressed the media. I don't know if there's been another report. But you hope going forward, that's all it is with Jackson Churio. Play it safe if that means he sits tomorrow, so you have him for later on, throughout the course of the rest of beginning of August through September, then do so. But yes, you do need to go for the sweep tomorrow. And you got to feel good if you're a Brewers fan for tomorrow with Freddie Peralta on the mound. Everydayer Nick, if Vaughn continues on this pace next year, bring back Vaughn's Valley. A couple of you have mentioned Vaughn's Valley. I think that was right before my time. I know my boy Chuck would remember it, but he also says this year, let the team stay focused on what's in front of them. Relentless, keep turning up the heat. I think for some of you, maybe this isn't what you wanted to see prior to the trade deadline, where the Brewers offense all of a sudden starts stacking up all these home runs and all these runs being scored. And maybe you were hoping they would pull the trigger on Eugenio Suarez, which obviously still might be the case. But you got to be really thrilled, going forward with the health of Jackson Churio, feeling really still, for me at least, feeling really good about this offense. I think going forward, if you're going to address something, I think most of us have agreed it needs to be in the bullpen. As Greg points out every day, or great team effort, 2 pitchers and the bullpen is rested. It's going to go under the radar because of the performance from Quinn Priester, because you only use 2 pitchers, because you beat the Cubs back-to-back games, because you now have a 2-game lead, and Andrew Vaughn, the legend, keeps growing. But man, that was huge tonight. That was really, really huge. The Cubs, on the other hand, did not. They pretty much exercised their entire bullpen in this game tonight. So they are going to be, shortlisted tomorrow, and it bodes well for this team, for this Brewers team, to be able to go for this sweep tomorrow afternoon. Jordan over on YouTube says, to be honest, I don't think we need a bat. The way the Brewers play long at bats and singles, wear down pitchers, and puts pressures on them, resulting in the opposing team having to go to their bullpens early. Look, the best way I described it, I said it today, and it's a cliche sports saying. I believe it was actually used to talk about the Green Bay Packers. I think it might have been Robert Saleh when he was coaching the New York Jets, so I can't take full credit. But what the Brewers do with teams, when they wear them down, they drag them out deep to deep waters and see if they can swim. And that's what they do. And that's long at bats, frustrating at bats. You look at the Marlins series, where the Brewers recently lost 2 out of 3, and the Marlins beat the Brewers in a way that the Brewers beat a lot of these teams, pesky at bats, not taking pitches out of the zone, fouling off good pitches, spoiling good pitches. And then boom, you load the bases, and then Andrew Vaughn comes up and sends them away. And that's pretty much it. So it's a frustrating, I can only imagine game planning for a team like the Milwaukee Brewers, throw Isaac Collins, throw Caleb Durbin, Bryce Terrain in the early part of the year, Sal Frelick. By the way, when Sal Frelick leads off, the Brewers are now 24-9. So we have mentioned, them being able to find their groove offensively going forward, even when he was out of the lineup on the IL. And thankfully it happened when it did. And the Brewers caught a few extra days with the All-Star break. But this Brewers team just, again, I don't really necessarily think that the bat needs to happen. Would it be great? Certainly. I would not oppose it. But Andrew Vaughn has been absolutely fantastic offensively for this team. And it's been more than I think any of us can sit here, look in the mirror, and actually admit that we expected this out of Andrew Vaughn. 21 RBIs, guys, in 15 games. Since the beginning of July, he's second in the National League in runs batted, and only behind Kyle Schwarber, who's a pretty darn good player himself. Nate over on YouTube, back when Craig Counsell was our manager, if we were down to nothing, the game might as well have been over. I love what they're doing and making sure we're getting on base and not leaving runners behind. It had been an issue with this Brewers team earlier in the year with runners in scoring position. Tonight was much better, 3 for 9. It was honestly better. I believe Monday they were 4 for 8. Don't quote me on that one, but I'm trying to remember exactly off the top of my head. So it has been getting steadily better for this Brewers team. But again, it's taken early advantage of those opportunities, something they didn't do in April, really in March, at back end of March, in April, and in the beginning to the middle part of May. They started to turn it on in May with that 8-game win streak that they went on, and things kind of started to turn there. Then they kind of cooled off. Then June 12th started for this team, and that's really when they took off, and it started to really, set itself up for what this team really could be. And then once you get these guys going and getting them healthy, and I hate to, keep saying this, but like this starting rotation is not even healthy yet. Like Robert Gasser tonight pitched 2 great innings. Nestor Cortez is on his way back. Whether those guys are going to be here after Thursday's trade deadline, we'll see, obviously. But like, you have guys that aren't even back to this starting rotation yet that have made an impact, or at least can make an impact. Manuel over on YouTube says it's time to name Vaughn the MVP of July. I do agree. I think that Andrew Vaughn is going to probably get a lot of recognition for National League player, certainly of the month, maybe the week for sure. In the first 2 games of the week so far, he has been absolutely fantastic. As Daniel over on YouTube says, I love what Vaughn has done, but I'm telling you, don't trust the guy long term. Let's enjoy the ride for now. Go Crew. Well, again, you could look at his tenure in Chicago and point to that as not a reason to trust him. But what I do trust, Daniel, is I trust this Brewers organization. I trust this coaching staff under manager Pat Murphy. I trust the leadership of the Milwaukee Brewers on the field, off the field, in the clubhouse, in the front office. I think it's a lot different than what he experienced, Andrew Vaughn, that is, in Chicago. And I think we're seeing that come to fruition, and we're seeing, that tree bear the fruits of what this guy is able to do. He was a 3rd overall pick in 2019 for a reason. That just didn't happen for nothing. So I think the talent with him has always been there. So I'm going to trust that this Brewers team does the right things going forward with Andrew Vaughn, and I think he's going to continue doing what he does best, and that's bat runs in. Now, will he do 21 runs batted in 15 games? Maybe not be able to keep that pace, but it certainly would be nice. Peter, our everydayer, speaking of Andrew Vaughn, he says, putting on a clinic out there. Priester looked great out there again. Let's get that sweep tomorrow. I mentioned it earlier in the show. The Brewers now have won their 11th straight game when Quinn Priester has pitched. Now, he had a couple of starts there where DL Hall got a start for him here and there, and but absolutely has turned it around. And it, we mentioned it when the trade. I mentioned it when the trade first went down. Was that don't buy into what you're seeing right now from Quinn Priester, right? Let him get under Chris Hook. Let him get acclimated to this Brewers pitching staff and manager Pat Murphy and most guys that come in that might not have done well on other teams. Is certainly when you look at the pitcher position, it always seems to work itself out for the Milwaukee Brewers. You call it a lab, you call it, dark magic is what I've seen other fan bases call it, but it has certainly worked out in the Brewers' favor. And Quinn Priester is another example of that. 10-2 now since he has come over in that trade earlier in the year from Boston. And now the Brewers have won their 11th win in a row when he pitches. Jordan over on YouTube says the atmosphere on this team is hands down the most electric in all of baseball. A great atmosphere in the crowd as well at American Family Field. And I know a chunk of those were Cubs fans. And if you're watching the podcast here, if you're listening, if you're a Brewers fan, there is not a better feeling. I mean, can't really talk about winning a World Series because we haven't gotten there, but I can imagine winning a World Series is probably better. But as a Brewer fan, there's not a better sight to my eyes than seeing Cubs fans leave before the game is over, whether it's at Wrigley Field or whether it is at American Family Field. It does not matter. When the Cubs are leaving in the 7th inning, in the 8th inning, they want to get a head start into those, get into their car and head back home. There's not a better feeling from me seeing them leave early as the Brewers put a pounding into the Cubs tonight, including a 9-3 win. Andrew over on YouTube, Nick, I'm guessing he says Nick Terrain can't play everyday shortstop. His arm won't hold up. My Chan over on YouTube says Hoskins too short so we can get that Adames level pop back. I don't know if Andrew Vaughn's going to net a ton as far as the trade market goes. Not Andrew Vaughn, Rhys Hoskins. As far as the trade market goes, I don't think the Brewers are even going to entertain dangling him in trade discussions right now, given his health and where he is going forward. And I do still think they value Rhys Hoskins in that clubhouse. And I think Pat Murphy certainly does as well. But nonetheless, Andrew Vaughn hits a grand slam. Quinn Priester pitches 5 2/3 innings. Aaron Ashby, the only two pitchers for the Brewers, Quinn Priester and Aaron Ashby, that will loom large going forward, certainly tomorrow as the Brewers look for the sweep. No post game, unfortunately. Tomorrow, a day game. Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Brewers. They'll look for this sweep. My thanks to each and every one of you for always tuning in, and thank you for always making Locked On Brewers part of your day each and every day. Just a quick reminder, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps, as well as over on YouTube. Just go to the search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, get notified when we go live. And if you're on the live stream right now, please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up on this video, drop a comment, drop a thought. We get to all of them. Whether we're live or after the show, we will get to all of them. The Brewers, 2 games up on the National League Central ahead of the Chicago Cubs, back-to-back wins, and they do it with the bats tonight behind Quinn Priester and Aaron Ashby. As always, it certainly feels good after a win. It certainly feels even better when you beat the Cubs in back-to-back games. But as always, win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.